Who here doesn't remember their first visit to a skate shop? And who can't testify to just how important the skate shop is in any skate scene? It's not just a place to buy things, it's a place to find and form your community. And few skate shops around the world have lasted longer and had a bigger impact on the entire culture of skateboarding than San Francisco's very own FTC, right here in the middle of San Francisco's Upper Haight, celebrating their 40th anniversary this year. FTC got started in 1966 as a sporting goods store that I think stood for Free Trade Center. They sold imported and exported skis, bicycles, whatever things that had nothing to do with skateboarding. But by 1986, Kent Uyehara, the founder of FTC, started dealing skateboards out the back of his family shop. The first shop was at Bush and Franklin, which is one of the most congested intersections in San Francisco. So it made sense to have a store that was highly visible and right by downtown. And what's sick about this location is that you're just a couple blocks from Civic Center. So you bomb down Bush and then make a right on Van Ness, and you're right at those ledges in front of City Hall. And if you go a couple more blocks towards the Tenderloin, you're right at that Federal building. And by the time FTC moves from Bush and Franklin up to the Upper Haight, you have 3 new skate spots popping off within the year. You have Bay Blocks, Pier 7, and right in the Civic Center, SFPL. And this area between the Panhandle and Golden Gate Park had always been a center for skateboarding, especially in the late 1980s. Not only did you have Fogtown and then Concrete Jungle right next to the park, but you also had jump ramp jams, you had street skating, you had people hanging out, and plus, this stretch of Haight Street, this is where all the head shops, the record stores, the alternative kids, I mean, besides the kind of countercultural history who considered Haight and Ashbury its epicenter, a neighborhood that appeals to musicians, revolutionaries, and burnout hippies is always going to be a draw for skateboarders. And here at 1632 Haight, between Clayton and Cole, is where the shop has been for the last couple decades.
For me, basically, the first experience from a skateboard shop was Skates on Haight. Right. Skates on Haight was basically the big shop in San Francisco. And so as a kid, you would go in there and you would just see all of these like racks, these storage racks with these boards. And I mean, it was like, if you went there and you saw a Powell board, you know, like Tommy G's, they would have like 40.
Right.
I learned very quickly, or saw very quickly, that they were just about the business. Mm-hmm. There was no consideration for the skateboarders at all. That basically kind of fueled my fire as a young teen, I guess. Yeah, then you had first Fogtown Skateboards, which is on Waller. They closed down, but then very shortly after that, then another guy, Ron, opened up Concrete Jungle. And to me, that's kind of like in a sense, the real jump off of everything that you see today, that connection of it, you know. So it was like a who's who of like that was either involved or working at that shop. I mean, Jake Phelps worked there. He technically, I think, was the manager at certain times. Mike Archimedes, exactly. Yeah, everybody. Yeah, you know. And so it was like to go there and to see one of these guys, it was like, you know, it's just like today where you're idolizing, you're like, wow, you know, and then you're standing next to the person, you know, maybe they're gonna talk to me, you know, say something, you know. And all these things were all, to me, examples of what I should be doing. I need to step up and make this total commitment to skateboarding. And so that's what I did.
All right, hey, what's up? James Couch. This is the Port 1 FTC in the street section. No, is that what it was supposed to be?
Skate shop, San Francisco.
What does FTC stand for, Huff? Forget the cops.
Free Trade Center.
West Side. Most shops didn't have the same kind of relationship with such an influential and young group of skaters. Like, can you talk a little bit about the first riders, how you met them, and maybe even what you learned from them?
Right, well, so the team basically started through Javante Turner. Javante, very charismatic young person. I met him coming through the store, what have you, as a customer. So he basically went out and came back, you know, maybe the next day. I was like, okay, here's the list, you know. And he rattled off their names. And I knew all these guys because they came in the store too, but not like I knew Javante at that point. So the original team was Javante, Mike and Greg Carroll, Rick Ibiceta. I think maybe Nick Lockman might have maybe got invited after that. And then I think it was Henry.
Okay.
I think Mike might have been the only one that was really, you know, sponsored yet, you know. I think maybe Javante was getting flow things or whatever, and then he was probably getting stuff from either Tommy or definitely Jim. We kind of just started with that team, and thank goodness, you know, like very soon in time, they all started to shine in their own ways. At a certain point, we ended up befriending so many pros. There's just so many skaters that we couldn't have an official team anymore, if that made sense. We still had the original OG guys, but then, you know, it was kind of like a movement at the time. You know, people wanted to be, you know, down with what was, you know, I guess trending or what have you, if you call it that. But I think it purely has to do with just being young.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I mean, I'm a teenager, so it's like I'm not even thinking about a budget or like what are people going to care or whatever. I'm just like, all I care about is the people that are right in front of me, you know, and if I can make them happy, then that's all that mattered, you know.
And while the bricks at Embarcadero are still here, it's important to point out that some of the last greatest footage filmed at Embarcadero showed up in the first FTC video, Finally, by Aaron Meza from 1993. And I think of Chico's line where he heel flips off the small three, does a nollie heel flip, nollie frontside tail slide on the block, then a backside flip, straight into a perfect switch frontside heel flip. And those two videos, Finally, and a few years later, Penal Code, not only centralized and cemented San Francisco's place on the world stage of skateboarding, but also opened up what was possible and how the city could look with other crews of an extended family coming to San Francisco and filming seminal parts. And what other shop video are you going to have a shared part with Mike Carroll and Rick Howard? And one of Bobby Puglio's first and most celebrated parts was, of course, the one that he films for FTC with Aaron Meza. And I think the most important thing about those FTC videos, especially Penal Code, was it captures that moment of crucial cross-pollination between East and West Coast skateboarding, best embodied probably by Keith Huffnagel's part. I mean, he does one line where he does a nollie 180 over a little gap, switch backside 180, up a curb, and then ollies a fire hydrant, that fire hydrant. And for the longest time, you couldn't tell if he's skating in downtown Manhattan or Jackson Square in San Francisco. And in an era before the internet, I cannot stress how important a skate shop was as a hub. This was your first or your last stop at any city you're visiting. If you want to meet up with a crew to go skate with, if you want to buy product, if you want to sell product, if you want to trade in product, if you want to borrow product, FTC and shops like it were the place to be. And that's obviously one of the sickest things about skateboarding that we all know. We take something that could be boring and we just make it way better through this thing that we all love. And basically what started out as a family shop ended up becoming a global family that truly changed the face of how we look at and think about skateboarding around the world.